We've got lots of good info for you, including details of planning for large spaces, troubleshooting on old slabs, making contracts work for you, and some new artistic techniques. We did 2 sets of samples, in an office scheduled to receive carpet and in the kitchen beneath where an island will be. We held a meeting with the interior designer and the developer who decided that weathered terracotta would be the primary color used throughout. We applied a coat of clear sealer to the side of each sample so they could see how much darker the color becomes under it. Doing the samples in blobs rather than in taped-off boxes makes them much easier to scrub away later in case the client changes his mind and decides he wants the sample area finished out with stain after all. That's what happened on this job. The developer was planning to carpet his office. We had done some very dark stain samples there. To get rid of them, we acid etched the floor 3 times with a mixture of muriatic acid and water in a 1:5 ratio. After spraying the acid water down and brushing it until it stopped fizzing, we let it stand a few minutes and then scrubbed with a black pad on the buffer. When the samples were paler, we did a final scrub with TSP and water, then rinsed and mopped the room. Later, we will stain this floor with some strong dark colors and lay plastic into the stain to further obscure the blobs. The next task is to clean the slab thoroughly. Any paint, tar, glue, or oil left on the slab will become glaringly obvious once you have stained. There are 6 common problems with new or old slabs, so here are 6 different cleaning methods. The most common problem we encounter on commercial jobs is not something spilled on the floor, but a slab which has been overworked with a power troweling machine. When the slab looks like this, dark gray and shiny, and it feels slick, you will know that it has been troweled too much. This is referred to as burnishing. If the slab is just a little slick, you might be able to open the pores by mounting a coarse sanding screen on your floor buffer and sanding the surface. The sanding can be done on a dampened floor to reduce dust. Use a 60 grit sanding screen. Screens adhere best if you have a white pad on the buffer. After sanding the area, try mopping it again. If water still beads up soon after mopping, it means that sanding is not enough. You will have to acid etch the floor. You can mix your own etching water by adding 1 part of muriatic acid to 5 parts of water and spraying it on. The quickest way to apply acid water is with a pump-up sprayer with all plastic parts. It is risky to pour it on the floor because if it sits in a puddle for even a few seconds, you will end up with a more deeply etched area where it first hit the floor. A second worker goes right behind the sprayer with a doodle pad to distribute the acid wash as evenly as possible. A third worker follows with a wet-dry vac to remove the concrete slurry before it has a chance to settle down on the slab. A fourth worker comes right behind him with the rinse water. One of the most difficult remodel problems you will encounter is a slab coated with a good epoxy paint or a polyurethane sealer. The only efficient way to remove these durable coatings is by grinding them off and not with chemicals. You will need to rent a scarifier. Most grinding machines have an array of knife scrapers or grinding stones arranged around multiple turning wheels. The whole assembly is mounted on a larger rotating platform. You'll have to purchase the grinding stones or cutters for the machine you are renting, and these can run to hundreds of dollars. However, these machines are very efficient, and unfortunately, you have no choice. Old vinyl tile mastic can also be removed with a power scarifier. If you are bidding on a supermarket or a big box store, this would be the way to prepare the slab most quickly. We often encountered the splattered resistant patterns of sprayed curing compound. This is an oily substance which is applied to freshly troweled concrete in the summer to block rapid evaporation and reduce surface cracking. You can tell when a curing compound has been applied to your work area because damp mopping will leave a spray pattern of white blotches while the concrete surrounding the spots accepts moisture right away. Your acid stain will roll away from these spots just the way the water does. Curing compound can be removed from a slab with a strong degreasing agent, but it is a slow, tedious procedure. This works fairly well on oil spots as well. The remains of the degreaser itself will resist stain, so you'll need to scrub the floor again using a new pad and some TSP solution. This should remove almost all the curing compound. If a tiny bit remains, it creates a mottled look to the final stain, which is nicely rock-like. It is ironic, but paint which has been left on the slab in a thick blob is much easier to remove than that which someone has made the effort to wipe up. Thick latex paint can be scraped off with a wide wallpaper scraper, and blobs of enamel sometimes pop right off. Once you have removed such blobs, you will have to deal with the soaked-in paint. We find that a 40-minute soak with TSP solution, followed by a scrub with a black pad, works well on latex overspray. Enamel or oil-based paints require something stronger, a citrus cleaner solution. Prior to staining, we send someone around the perimeter to check our wall masking for holes and to patch them. Since we apply stain with a sprayer, the fine mist can enter them and mar the walls. In really big spaces, we find backpack sprayers to be most efficient. They hold lots of stain. Have several backups on hand and order extra spray tips, since it is this small part which seems to give out first. To help prevent clogging, use a house painter's filter or wrap a piece of nylon pantyhose around the funnel before filling the chamber. Here we are mixing two stain colors on the floor. The client wanted a green color with islands of brown here and there to mimic a wetland view. We are using faded bronze with small areas of mahogany in order to cover the remains of our stain samples, which we were unable to entirely etch away. We lay thin painter's plastic drop cloths into the wet stain as the sprayers move along. The plastic is left on for the duration of curing and leaves wonderful patterns. It helps link the brown areas visually into the background. You can't stain a wide swath because the stain must still be very wet when the plastic is dropped over it. We lay plastic into wet stain when we want a strong overall pattern. This helps in remodels to camouflage filled carpet tack strip holes, indented spots with permanent tile mastic, or the shadow pattern left on the slab by ceramic tile.